There we go, Maria. Welcome to the channel. Thank you for being here. I'm very happy about this conversation. I have been wanting to have it for a long time, so I'm really glad that the agendas finally met. Please let the audience know a little about yourself. Who is Maria? Let us know whatever you want.
Hello, nice to be here. Really great to have those collaborations between the channels. So I am Maria Chec, and I'm actually from Poland, and I live in Barcelona. And I work in Agile for more than a decade already. That's something I do for life. I started my channel as well, the Agile State of Mind, um, and that's what I do professionally. When it comes to like private life, I'm a mom. I have a lot of hobbies. I love traveling and do a lot of strange stuff in my free time. And yeah, and I love living in Spain. That's one of the things that I really I really love.
Great. How did you arrive living to Spain, like from Poland? How did that happen?
Yeah, I when I was in high school, I had to choose the university, and I really like learning languages. But I noticed that okay, I already speak English, and I will speak English, so maybe I should learn Spanish. Why not? I thought it's like very matching my temperament, and I had no clue about Spanish, so I applied. I get in, and then I did like a gap year, and I came to Barcelona in long time ago for a gap year, and then I went to also to South America. So I traveled a bit in Argentina and Chile and Brazil. And then when I came back Poland, I promised myself I will not spend many more winters in Poland. Like I
Okay.
love Poland. I really recommend everyone go to Warsaw. It's great in the summer. I love it, but winters are hard. So
Oh.
then I was also in Madrid for an Erasmus, and this led me to like that's my place to be. So now I'm in Barcelona,
Awesome.
and I
Thank
learned
you for sharing.
Spanish, so now I can also manage.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, I'm Mexican, so we were talking before this interview if we should do it in Spanish or English, but we ended up with English. Let's see how that goes. So you studied and you went to another country, and but at what time? I mean, no one studies to be an agile coach, right? So at what time did you do this
The
jump into the
switch.
agile world switch?
Yeah, so that's actually, the typical journey from a project manager to
Okay.
an agile coach. So I started working during the university in an advertising agency in Poland. I
Mm.
had a lot of friends, we were like a family, and it was interesting, but it was just such a terrible like waterfall story. People were just handing over stuff. The development, I usually worked with like digital projects, so digital
Mm.
campaigns for important brands like Volkswagen, for example, or Kellogg. And then I noticed that the developers were like the last in the chain, and when something came to them, they had like so little time, because the whole time that the campaign was promised to be delivered was consumed was defining the art and the colors and the beautiful images. So I have to tell you that when I came to Barcelona, I also started working in agencies, and I cried sometimes when I was going back home. Like it was like going into a fight every day. Like people will be fighting with each other. If not between the teams themselves, it would be fighting between the client and the agency. I hope they are not using waterfall and this kind of approach anymore. And then I quit one day. I said like I can't do this anymore. I'm unhappy. And also they were working strange hours. I was never home before 8 p.m, and I felt
Okay.
like I came to here. I wanted to just enjoy my life and the sun, and I never see the sun anymore. So I changed, and that was actually like I would say a coincidence that I just started working in a software house. They were
Hmm.
doing an application. It was very small app for kite surfer. It's called
Oh.
Woo. It was interesting, and it was nice because it was firmware, so a small thing you put on your kite board, and then you also you can check how high you jump and stuff like that. So it was very cool. And I started in going into Agile more and more. I started like somebody between a product owner and a scrum master, because it was a startup, 5 people or like, I don't know, 12 people. So, and I really liked it. And I started reading more and more. And my next job was already as a scrum master. Like, I don't know
Mm,
what this is really, but I read the scrum guide. And in that job, I had like a very nice mentor. I think this is very important. Like, I had very good mentor, Victor, and he was helping me a lot. We had
mm,
the PSM, the Professional Scrum Master certification, done at that work, and it was like, wow, this is really it, now I understand. And then the thing went on, and I usually, it was like, suddenly I enjoy going to work. I don't feel like Monday is the worst day of the week. And
mm.
of course, I still enjoy my weekends, but I just noticed that just the change of mindset and the way we organize work can make some wonders, really, for the way you feel about your work.
Yeah, yeah, I feel you. I have been in a similar journey. So it's great when you arrive to a place where you feel very comfortable, right? Very happy about working. So you mentioned that you got certified. So what was your journey regarding certifications and preparations? And I'm
Mhm.
asking this because there might be a lot of Scrum Masters to be or Scrum Masters that are just starting, and maybe they have these questions like, how did she prepare, right, for real life? Well,
Mm.
what do you recommend if you were back then to prepare?
Okay. Yeah, I think it is really important to do some certifications. Like, I'm not like a fan of like, let's just do everything that there is, but getting what you understand from the Scrum guide, and then having somebody like walk you through it, guide you through what it really means, what it means in practice, giving you some stories from the real life. This really, for me, was a game changer. So I remember it's also not so easy, the professionals Scrum Master certification. And you have I remember I read Scrum Guide like 5 times in a month to get the certification. And it actually was in April 2017, I think. So I remember it was like, really, I was reading and reading, and every time I got something new and paid attention to something new. So I really think it's really good to first read the Scrum Guide and read, if you want to also know about Kanban, which usually is very close. I think it's really good to read. Now there is the Kanban guide by Daniel Vacanti, and it's also very easy, very, very short. And we finally have the guide. I remember back then you were like, where do I actually learn
Hmm.
about Kanban, right? So now you can really read the guides. And then I think it's really good to have, like, go on LinkedIn, find some people you want to follow, that, like, find a channel where somebody will explain to you the concept. So I think it's really good to get some guidance, like, even if it's a passive guidance, like looking for articles, looking for YouTube channels. And I remember also I was reading a lot the Barry Overeem, and he was writing about the anti-patterns, and Stefan
Hmm.
Wolpers as well. They have these sections, like a series of Scrum anti-patterns, so to also understand, like, okay, this is what we want, but this is also what we don't want. And sometimes you go into like the anti-patterns and you realize like you're the Scrum mummy. So and I think for sure your channel and also in mine, you can find a lot of like Scrum guide basics and all the events work, what requested, what's expected. And I
Hmm.
think that was the thing. But for me also, as I mentioned, the mentor, like, find some mentor, somebody who will help you. And I remember I hated him at the beginning, because whenever I went to him, he was like answering with a question. My questions were answered with a question. And I'm like, again, making me think instead of just giving me the answer. But that really helped. Like, I was
Yeah.
made to think about the things, and it really helps well.
Awesome. Regarding these certifications, you went for the one with Scrum.org or Alliance, or
Yeah,
what did you take? And
scrum.org.
what do you, for those who don't know any type of certificate, which one do you recommend to start?
I would recommend, like, for Scrum, I really recommend scrum.org, the professional
Mhm.
scrum masters, be scrum master, because it is really so much harder. It's like the exam really checks if you understood the concept or not, just like, oh yeah, I know this is a concept and I will just reply. And the exam makes you think, and you can do those assessments, like open assessments, before you go into the exam. I really like it also. And for the Kanban, I really recommend the Pro Kanban. As a trainer, what can I say, right? So the Pro Kanban
With you, you're a
tra-
trainer, right? A common trainer. That's
yes,
awesome.
yes, since very recently. And I also really like it because it's Kanban made simple and like very basic, not prescriptive, but with strong foundation. So we learn the foundation, but then you don't have like so much prescriptiveness when it comes to like, you have to do this and that and that. No, you learn the basics and what's really important as a base. So I think those two would be like a good start in my view.
Great. Let's. I will put over here in the channel, description, the links to your trainings, so they can
Okay.
look for you. Also, the you mentioned your channel, right? Agile State of Mind. How did that started? What was the trigger? How did you name it? How
Yeah.
has this been?
Yeah, so this is another coincidence. So I used to work in a very agile environment that I didn't really realize. So both at that company that I mentioned with my mentor, and then I went to work with my taxi, which is free now. I think it's mostly in Europe. It's like you can hail a taxi. And that
Hmm.
was so agile, but you don't know if you are like a new agile coach or scrum master, you don't really can compare. If you are always in one place, you have no comparison to some other place outside. And then I went to work somewhere else, and I noticed like, but the team does the daily scrum. They think they do scrum, but they don't understand why they are here. Like they are just reporting a status to somebody who's like the captain or whoever of the team. And I remember my the person that hired me, my manager, he was saying at the beginning that, yeah, we are doing scrum, and I would really like to get it. I think he had like very good intentions, but then I know, and he told me, but you cannot just tell them that, you cannot put yourself as more, because they have experience, they have been working with scrum for like 5 years, 6 years, so you need to be careful there. And I took his word for it. And then I noticed, like, once I actually asked them, like, I did one-on-ones with the team. I had like 3 teams there, and I asked them, like, okay, so what's your experience with scrum? And they suddenly started saying, like, yeah, I don't really have one. I started here, so I just followed whatever everybody was doing. And I noticed that actually wasn't true. Like, I don't think he was lying. He just thought really that that's true. And then I
Hmm.
started doing, like, okay, so hello everyone again. And we used some time to really like come back to the basics. Like, well, let's understand daily scrum. Why are we there? What is the purpose? And nobody could answer. And then I was like, okay, but that's strange. Like, I thought the whole world was agile already, and suddenly it was not. So I thought somebody told me about a channel of a friend about agile, and I thought, like, maybe it's the right time, because I feel like I go to the next team and I have to repeat the same thing over again and over again. So I thought, like, okay, I will start explaining, well, how is the perfect daily scrum. That was my first video. It was like, this is how the perfect daily scrum is, okay? And then it went. And then I also, it really helped me. And I had, because there were situations where I was presented with situations that I thought, like, oh, I didn't know this could be an issue or a challenge for the teams. So then I was explaining that in my channel, and it really is based on like real stories from real teams. And then we solve something together. And then I'm like, you know what? I can send you a video how to solve this, or how I would see this happening, and then we can talk about it. And this really helped. So
Yeah,
that's
that's great. Awesome. How has been your experience growing the channel? I also have a channel, and it has been a little painful to see how other videos get viral about this girl going to the movies and just throwing popcorns. And I'm like, I did a better video about Scrum. Why is this viral? And why is no one seeing my video? So have you faced
Yeah.
this frustration? I don't know how to say it.
Oh yeah. How long have you had your channel
I have
for?
had the channel for like 3 years and a half, I think.
Okay, so
Yeah, I have
wow, we
uploaded like
started
800
almost
videos.
this. Sorry.
Yeah, I have uploaded like 800 videos. It's incredible.
Really?
Yeah, I have worked really hard, and it has been a painful to grow, right?
Yeah.
So, what have been your experience with this?
Yeah, the same. But I don't think I uploaded even 80. I think like I uploaded like 60 maybe throughout all those 3 years. So I think first of all, our channel is not forever. Like when
Yeah,
people get to know me, and first of all, explain what's an agile coach, right? It's even
yeah,
it's already better because there's a coach, so people have some
mhm,
understanding. But if you say scrum master, you lost them, right?
yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
our channel is not for, it's not like the open audience. Like nobody that I know, like my friends, my family, they have no clue what I'm talking about. Right?
I know.
So that's already a challenge. I think at some point, you know what I realized, that because there was also the part I remember I was like, oh, this is such a great idea. I will do this video and I will compare that achieving a sprint goal is like getting a shot of dopamine and everybody will watch it. Nobody wanted to watch it, you know? And then at some point I remember I was like, there was this strange video about refinement. I think I will remove it because I'm actually like ashamed of myself. I didn't remember well how I did. And then I look at it and it's like, it's the most watched video. So it's like you can never know which will be super. And the usual ones that I think, oh my God, this was great. They are not so great. They are not so well received as I would wish. So I think at some point I just realized like this is a niche and we can do as much as we want in the niche. And it's like we can, I don't even have videos like twice per month is a lot for me. You know, I have a lot of things going on in my private life as well. And sometimes I'm not uploading for some time. And I know it really decreases everything. But I just decided I'm not gonna go and like get into a place that I'm obsessing over my channel. I also don't want, I would never want to be a popular person like that. I go out and you are this YouTuber that everybody knows and they recognize your face. Like, I think really popularity is one of the things that bring you a lot of stress and unwanted. I really
Mhm.
think it's not nice. It's not good for anyone's health and mental health. So I think, yeah, I just came to like, I'm okay with what it is. I think it really gives me some recognition in the field. And when I look for a job, it's easier for me because I can always show the
Mhm.
proof, right?
Yeah.
I know what I'm talking about. You can watch my channel, you can see my LinkedIn, you can read my articles. So I think for me, I came to this like, yeah, but actually, there's something that I can tell you that with some other people from different channels, we started mastermind. So basically, agile people that have agile channels, we start like we meet every month to talk about it. So
Oh,
that's an
nice.
invitation for you. Maybe some other people from Agile would like to join. We usually try to have like light-hearted people that have a lot of sense of humor and work together and share what's actually interesting because some tricks that you don't even pay attention.
Yeah, I would love to
Really.
participate.
So I invite you. It would be great to have you face it.
Yeah, awesome. Sounds really good. Maria, I think that you have uploaded a very small amount of videos and you have a lot of subscribers. So you're doing a really good job in the videos that you're uploading. That's my take. And I think that I have seen a lot of your videos, and the thing that is really valuable that I would say is that you make really easy something that is not easy to explain, right? That's what I like about your videos. I have learned a lot from your channel. I wanted to ask you, you mentioned the family, the friends, that no one has a clue what is an agile coach, a scrum master. How do you explain, and this is the biggest challenge that I have with this profession, right? whenever my mother or my sister ask me, what do you do for a living? Like, well, what is this agile coaching thing? Or this, when I was a scrum master, how do you normally explain to a person that doesn't understand at all anything about agile or scrum, what is an agile coach or what is a scrum master?
I'm gonna start that part when for Christmas or something. Don't give me that. But you know,
Yeah, yeah,
that is I love that, and that would be my like when you pick
yeah. I think
me
it's breaking a little. Let me see if it's my internet. Let's see.
on my like tab.
Yeah, probably that will be good. Yeah, no, my internet is good. Maybe it's from your side the internet, but
Might be
yeah,
my
but I can hear you well. I mean, I can see you a little pixelated, but it works, I think.
you do. I open with this like straight.
It's a little pixelated, but I can hear you well. So audio is the most important thing in here, I think. So we should be good, I guess.
So I will once again.
Yeah.
Have you watched Ted Lasso yet?
Yeah, 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 sure.
Yeah. Okay. So you know because it's very to explain since I also like every master in Agile because well how you take stuff personally and like distance and I think that's the analogy, you know, like you know in sports you have a coach. It doesn't mean that the coach was the greatest player before. It might be, but it's not a necessity. And the
Mhm.
coach helps the team, like he sees from outside what they do well, how they can improve the game, right? So this is what I do at work. So I work with applications with some so I will pause here because my alarm went off. Sorry. I will,
No worries.
of course, because I'm taking some medicine and I have to remember. I will just put it here so it doesn't.
You can take it. I can just remove the part if you want.
Yeah.
If you
Okay.
need to take it next. Yeah.
No. I will take it
Okay.
later.
We're good. Okay.
So, you know, that part of coaching the team is very similar. So I work with in the technology, right? People understand like, technology, I understand. Coach, team coach, I understand. So yeah, imagine this is like being a coach, but in
Mhm.
technology. So I help to optimize the work, like help people work better, organize their stuff, get things done and make sure that it's the optimal, we remove waste and we actually have like a smooth way of working and that's basically it. So that's
Yeah.
like the easiest way for me to give some analogies and explain very easily what we do.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. That's an easy path. Maria, have you had this experience where you join a team and they are not willing to, to do some changes? Like, hey, let's start with story points, and they are like, no, 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 we don't care about that, or we don't care about agile, or you. Has this happened, and how do you manage this resistance?
Yeah, this happens quite a lot. And especially, you know, I was actually in that company that I told you that I thought people are not really know, they don't really know Agile and like working because in the end, I think it's also important, you know, we talk about like, yeah, we are agile coaches. Agile is good. You know, like drugs are bad. Don't do drugs. Waterfall is bad. Don't do waterfall. But why? Like, and I say to people, so we want to help you to so that your work is easier, is better organized. You know what to do, why we do things, and it can really make a change. And I am the proof, walking proof, because I worked in that other one. And in so for me, it's agile is like applying common sense to work and trying to unlearn some habits that prevent us from like being effective, because sometimes
Mhm.
or efficient, because sometimes it's like, you know, there are a lot of those things that you find online that show this is what your intuition tells you, so start everything at the same time. Like we love starting new things, right? And then what is like against your intuition but is really good for you, do like parallelize work. Don't do like everything at the same time. Start, finish, and then go to the next one. Start, finish. Don't do context switching. And I think those are the things that we are teaching here in Agile in the end. So I like to first of all explain like, hey, I am not here to just teach you to do Agile or Scrum. You I don't really even believe that for everyone Scrum is like a silver bullet, or oh, we will do Kanban and that will solve the world's problems. But there are some practices that can help you work better and have less distractions and have more focus. And when you talk about focus to developers, they usually like it rings a bell because they understand how hard it is when people keep on distracting you and give you new things. So I'm explaining. I try to do some kind of a retrospective, and or at the beginning I try to observe, and I try to observe what are the biggest problems. Like usually, for example, they have either that they start everything and they have like a huge column of open and nothing in done, and the other one is also that usually those organizations that are not mature enough, they put a lot of things like in the middle of the sprint, like, oh, now this is a fire, this is a fire, and people, and you can really feel how people suffer from like, but I never finish anything. There's always something new to do, and there's always a fire to extinguish. So I think it's really important, like, to take some time to understand, not come with like, I know, I have the solution for your problems. I don't know your problems, but I know your solution. So I really try to understand them, see their problems, and explain like, I understand you suffer from this. How do you feel when you get like another fire, and get to empathize with them, get that they feel like I'm compassionate. I try to understand, ask some questions, and then say like, what do you think if we change this one thing at a time, you know? And I remember this is not anymore in Kanban guide, but this like, instead of doing a change everything, we start from where you are. We help you, we collaborate with you to go farther. And I think it's really good. And but I also think it can be that you start and like you do a big bang. It doesn't. But if you want to really get on the side of people and get their trust, you need to start small and like, okay, let's try one thing at a time. And then we do a retrospective. You tell me, did it help? And I remember in my last video where I explained active management of the workflow, which is one of my favorite Kanban concept. I actually explained the story of a team that we just started walking the board. You know, walking the board is like, this is really, I think it's like, if there is a silver bullet in Agile, walking the board is that. Because when you stop the, oh, we now are on our daily and we will just tell you what we did and all the
Hmm.
meetings we had and nobody cares what you're saying, to okay, let's focus what we have to do and let's focus what we should have done. And you start walking the board. You start thinking like, okay, what can we finish today? What is the next thing that is important? Let's see what we have in progress and how we can start finishing it. That's where the game changes so much. And I remember when I was leaving that company, somebody told me, you know what, I would, and it was a person from a different team that I didn't work with, but he said like, I heard so many great things about you, and that you actually helped the team to get to a next level of collaboration and
Oh, nice.
efficiency, you know, that I would love to have this opportunity to work with you. And I was like, wow,
Nice.
thank
Yeah.
you. Like, I really feel this is why I love my job, and this is why I come every day to work. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you for sharing, Maria. Um, Another question. You are mentioning a lot of Kanban, and I started with Scrum long time ago, and I loved Scrum, right? So I didn't want every time that someone mentioned Kanban, I was like, no, 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 Scrum is the best. Forget about Kanban. I don't even want to know it, right? But then I started learning about Kanban, and I really like Kanban now, right? So um, what would you say to these persons that do not know about Kanban, that probably should start looking at Kanban? Could you like say, okay, if your team has these characteristics or these challenges, then Kanban could be a better framework, or
I actually, for the teams that work with Scrum, which usually happens to me the other way around, actually, the teams are so fed up with Scrum and the meetings and everything, and they think we know better. We will just do Scrum with Kanban, which basically for them means we will have the board and we
freedom.
will not have sprints, you know?
Yeah, freedom,
Ah,
right? Like,
yeah,
we
great.
can do whatever.
Yeah, that's great Kanban for you. So I think in your case, I would start with let's use some let use some like Kanban practices into Scrum. We don't have to
Mm-hmm.
switch totally 180 degrees. We can, there is actually even a Scrum with Kanban guide, and it
Mm-hmm.
explains the basic concept, and I really think it's very profitable. I actually, my favorite part of like my favorite, I don't know how to call it, like a framework or a way to work, is having Scrum and Kanban, because
Mm-hmm.
in the end I feel like it is helpful to have the cadence that sprint give you. The
Mm-hmm.
like we know what happens. We know that we start this Monday and we have sprint planning, so we plan, and then we know it's the end and it's a retro. And on Wednesdays we have the refinement. It doesn't have to be this way, but it's like helping that I know what will happen, and we are creatures of like habit, and it helps. And then if you put like, okay, so now we see that our ready for QA column becomes long. It's always long, and we have bottlenecks. So I think that's where you think like, oh, maybe we should do some look at some Kanban practices. And just starting with, for me, with the walk the board, with actively managing what you already have started. Like, let's forget about that. For example, the on hold column, we no longer have an on hold or paused or impediment or whatever column, but we just highlight, put like in red or with a flag, the issues in the columns that they are blocked. And as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to, and then we try to start finishing what can be finished. We review what we even have on the board. Sometimes we are just like have so many things we don't even know anymore what there is, and we just close the sprint with like I don't know how many items in progress, and then we reopen them again, and they are still there because they are blocked. But then so you can start reviewing like, okay, let's look at the items we have in actively like in progress, and what can we do about it. Do we really need to do this thing that's here for 3 months and nobody remembers what it is? Maybe we can just close it. Then there is another thing that, yeah, actually we will have to do it, but it's not so urgent. We just put it back to do. So those techniques, and then once we clean up the board, we can start using some limits, like limit the work in progress, so maybe we don't open so many things. And this also helps to use some other practices like swarming or pair programming, so having people help each other as opposed to everybody has their own thing and then we never collaborate, right? Even if you are a back-end person, you can help the front-end person, usually this way more than the other way around. But then you can also, at one of my teams, we started doing like testing. So instead of using the QA for testing, they were just testing their own stuff, just not my, like the back-end person would put something in QA, and during the daily, we would define who can take it and test it for them. And the QA guys were more focused, because we usually have less of those. We're more focused on, we prepare the test so you can follow them. We make sure there is a test plan for the end of the sprint and so on. So I think those are the small things that you can just add. And this is really how you optimize the flow. This is what Kanban is about. And it really helps so the work flows more smoothly. And I think this is how I would approach that.
Okay, great, great. We have talked in this channel a lot about how we prepare a team to start doing Scrum in 1 week or whatever, right? How does that, is that different from? And you're an expert in Kanban, so you can tell me a little more about how do you prepare a team to start doing Kanban? Do you start the next day? Do you once you have a backlog, or do you need a workshop, or how do you prepare that?
Yeah, I usually do kind of a workshop, because this is also like there are so many misconceptions about Kanban. And especially, people think really that it's just a board without sprints and it will be easier. And then I don't have to do the planning. I don't have to do that. I don't have to do. And I remember I was actually asked about that once, and I made a video about like Scrum Master for Kanban, because it's not something official, but in the end, you as a Scrum Master, if the team decides to go Kanban, you become like Scrum Master for Kanban, right? So what I usually do, there is this, like, it's called in Kanban definition of workflow. So you
Mhm.
basically start your collaboration. I usually do like short intro, if even when the team still works in Scrum, and they tell me, we think we should be it would be nicer, we read this article, or one person, something happens and they want to do Kanban. If it's not possible anymore to do Scrum with Kanban, which I would try, so I try
Mm-hmm.
to explain them, okay, I will do a short intro about Kanban so you can really learn what Kanban is, so you don't have this misconception of I think I want this, but I don't really know what I want. So I try
Mm-hmm.
to do like a first short intro. Still, they are still doing their stuff. We have like 1 hour or 2 hours, and I explain like we need to create a workflow. There are game rules. You create your work in progress limits, and this is important. You can't just start everything. And then you have and then I explain like this is what company. Are you still want to do it? Yes. Okay. So we then go and we have a workshop. So I would really do it while they still work in Scrum, or whatever they work right now. And then there will
Mm-hmm.
be a workshop and we are like, okay, hey, so today we will define our workflow. So we have the board, we have the what it means, what are the columns, and then like slowly implement. Maybe at the beginning we will have just one the work in progress limit. We don't have to have for every column, we can start with just having maybe one for QA, wherever we can see that we have the bottlenecks, we can put it, or we put one for the whole board, depending. So I let them do, but it's like, and the most important thing, and then we define the meetings, because in Kanban you don't have to. In theory, you
Mm-hmm.
cannot do any meetings, but
Mm-hmm.
usually, having the team see each other. I also like I have this video also about like daily Scrum. Do we really need to do it every day? Because when we were in the office, it was like the official moment of starting the work for the
Mm-hmm.
team. So you can come earlier, but you cannot come later than the daily,
Mm-hmm.
right? But now, since we are online and everybody knows what to do, I sometimes question whether we really need to do it every day, but for sure at least 3 times a week. So it depends on like, okay, we are this team that comes to the office, we want to have it every day, we want to start with every day, and then we will see, and so on. So we define. I try to at least have the daily, the refinement, and then not really the planning, because you can have it, but it's more optional once you do some refinements, so you make sure you have the work to do and it's refined. And we for sure keep the retro. Maybe it can be once a month, but it's a retro where we keep on iterating over our workflow. So in the end, we work in this, we define this, but we see like, no, the the limits are like too small, and we keep on getting stuck, so we need to increase them, or we can change them. Sometimes it's like, oh, the work in progress limit, the board will be unhappy with me because I put something where it shouldn't be. But it's like, no, if there is a fire, you just do it because it's blocking and there is a problem. So we do it very organically. So I explain, we test, and then we come back and we review it. And then we also look at the metrics. The metrics are important, and also learning how to stop doing the, people are like, oh, we don't have to do the estimation anymore. Yeah, you don't have to, but we have to check how many things. Are we like have a stable system, or are we doing like sometimes super cool? So I still try to keep some kind of a cadence, and especially if you are in a company that most of the teams do Scrum and it's like a 2-week sprint, it's good to also have this kind of a cadence, so when there are some dependencies or somebody waits for somebody else, they can understand when it will be done. And it also helps with this habit of, okay, let's check cadence, whatever it is, what's our throughput, so how many items we finish per 2 week, what's our how many things we have in progress, is it like increasing, is there a problem, what's the item age, which is a very interesting metric that we never look at, but it's very interesting to see like, okay, this thing is there for like a month already and nobody does anything, are we sure what's going on? So yeah, so this is very like custom made thing.
Yeah, got it. Okay, thank you for sharing. Maria, what's your take on these escalation frameworks like Nexus, Less? What do you think about Safe? Which one do you like? Which one do you think works? Which one you think sucks? What do you think?
I will respond with the best response from an agile coach. It depends. But I don't have much experience with less or nexus. Nexus is basically doing scrum at scale, and both of them, I think less is really like less. It doesn't give you so much bureaucracy as
Mhm,
safe does. I have
mhm.
quite a lot of experience, and I am working right now with teams that work in safe. And
Okay.
I feel like sometimes it's not that, there is so much hate when it comes to safe. And I am very
Mhm,
ironic and sarcastic when it comes to safe, because some of the things they propose are like, no.
mhm,
So in the end, I think it's all about defining what are our problems, what are our challenges. When you have an organization like I am now in, which has, I think, like around 50 teams, you can't
mhm,
just do with Scrum or with Kanban. It's
mhm,
and especially if the teams in such big organizations, it's a very complex how you create a product. It's not just a simple app which can be done and people can have their own part. Like, for example, Spotify, it's not a small company, but it's like very easy to understand. You are taking care of the playlist, or you are taking care of the radio part or of that part, and you can have autonomous teams. In my case, we have asset, like teams own assets. They are component teams. They cannot put something live on their own because they depend between each
mhm,
other. There's a high, so I think this is really important to understand. We have a lot of dependency between the teams.
mhm,
We need many teams to create an increment at the end of the sprint.
mhm,
So SAFe actually gives you a lot of answers to those problems, especially with the PI planning and making sure the dependencies are mapped and which sprint you can expect your stuff that you wait for to be unblocked. So I think
mhm,
there are some parts of it that, because I work with it and because I see the challenges, I'm not hating on. Like, I have those parts that I will always laugh and roll my eyes, when I do them. And I will be the first one to like discourage teams to like, maybe this part we don't need to do anymore. But
mhm,
just the fact of like having alignment, having scrum of scrums, which is scrum, safe in the end, they steal a lot of things from other frameworks, and sometimes they just rebrand it for their own. So in the end, it's like doing scrum at scale, doing scrum of scrums where teams align, having some owner of the bigger product and all of those team of teams, and having an RTE, the release train engineer, who's like a scrum master, but as well at scale. So you're no longer master helping the team in their ecosystem, but you are helping like more teams and making sure they are aligned, they know what is necessary. You also have quite a lot of like reporting up in such companies, because how do you know if what you
mhm,
wanted to get will be done? So I made a lot of like my process in my head about that, and thinking like, okay, how do you actually know if you don't have some kind of status reporting? You might get lost in the bureaucracy, but on the other, so you're, I think in those moments, the job of us, like the agile coaches, the scrum masters, is to save the teams from bureaucracy, but help them align, coordinate between themselves, and make sure they collaborate as smooth as possible. And they know what to do when they get blocked and they need to escalate. It's like, yeah, we should remove the escalation, because just escalating means that you already are not too agile. But if you have so big company, it's so hard to even like, we change a process and we want everybody to know it. The change management becomes a huge
mhm,
endeavor. So I think it's like, it's choosing something, and usually you're not even involved in choosing it. It's the management. So that's why I'm like, we sometimes are just the victims because of safe. Like, somebody decided we go with safe, and I my idea now is, I have some videos about safe, about PI planning, and my idea is
mhm,
like, we are presented with a situation. So how can we do the best with what we have? And usually for me, it's that. It's like understanding our challenges, checking the solution they provide, and just applying those parts of it that help us with our challenge.
Yeah, I totally agree that that's the way to go. I mean, there's no silver bullet, and safe will not save you from anything, or Nexus or less. But if you learn those frameworks and there's some things that you can apply into the challenges that the teams are having, like what you mentioned, right? So we have a lot of dependencies. Okay, the PI planning is helping us. The part where we put the program board with the risk and dependencies. So that helps us a lot. So we take it and we do it, right? So rather than getting married with a framework, I think that that's the best approach. Maria, I have seen that many of the videos that have more views in my channel, at least, has to do with retrospectives. I believe that persons are going into the channels or YouTube and looking at different, structures or different tips. What do you think, from your experience, that a good retrospective should have? What tips can you give the audience for a good retrospective, right?
Yeah, that's true. In my channel, that's also true. I think because it's like it's a bit of gamification as Scrum Master get to have in our job, right? And sometimes it's like you have some other Scrum Masters that do more games and break icebreakers, and they are like the fun ones, and then you feel like, oh, I need to do and step up my game because others are funnier than I am. But in the end, I think it's like it has some stages. So I really believe in what the Agile retrospective says, that if you make people speak at the beginning, there is a higher chance they will speak later. So what we
Mhm.
want to avoid is that only the same people speak and the rest has no say, and they might have great ideas, but they are just not so easygoing and forward, right? So I think it's like there are parts that are soft skills help a lot, and there are parts that are very technical and you can just learn forever, that you have those icebreakers, something to do at the beginning to warm up, to make sure everybody speaks, to have them like excited about the exercise. Then you have some part where we do some kind of collect the data, right? So we need to do some data collection. So we have a retrospective, which sometimes it can be a directed retrospect. Something happened, like an RCA, root cause analysis, or it sometimes I do those. I know that there is a problem in the team, so I'm trying to focus the retrospective. So we collect the data. So there are a lot of exercises how to collect the data. One of the most known would be like the sailboat, for example, when you have different parts where you collect the data. And then we open it and we start like, okay, now we vote what we want to really take to the next stage, where we start talking about and finding the solutions to our problems. And the last stage is where we actually make those into actions, and we make sure we have actions that will be worked upon. So I think it's like it's good to put in your brain, or in a mirror or somewhere, that okay, those are the stages, and then you can find really different games and warm-ups and techniques, practices to fill in those. And then it can always be different. It can sometimes I had this moment, especially I think when you're like a junior Scrum Master, you really want to like, this is the moment for me, right? But later you realize that what is important is that we tackle the most important issues, and sometimes the team might not tackle them, and it's your job to make sure they do. So we come back and like, hey, didn't you notice what happened last week, and this was the thing, what do you think, should we do something about it? So I think that's where the soft skills come. Or sometimes you can say like, shut up, because the team and you have a lot of trust, and there are people that always speak, and we are like, yes, I hear you, let's have others talk, depending on your also confidence and like proximity, the way you deal with the team. You can just say directly and everybody will laugh because they know this person always talks, and then you ask the others to also speak. So I think part is like technical, we define the stages and we define what we will do in each stage, and the other part is more like, has everybody spoke, do we have a consensus, are there any problems that we should solve, and doing those like soft skills into putting them into place. Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
I got you. I think as long as we keep that kind of structure where we have the data, have the inputs, make everyone talk, tackle the main problems. You gave great tips. Thank you for that, Maria. Um, Another question. So there might be some persons looking at this video that are not Scrum Masters or product owners, or maybe some C-level or some directors that are asking, like, what are these guys talking about? I don't need agile in my company. I mean, why would I need some agile coach if I'm doing great in the market, in my product, my service? So what are some signals or some indicators in a company that you have seen that would make you think that, hey, we need an agile coach, hey, we need Maria, we need Hector to help with the
Mhm.
agility in this place? What would be some things that you would see?
So I think to start with, that would be what I shared with you before, that we might see that there are always some fires, that you see that people feel they don't progress on anything, but they keep on extinguishing fires. There's always some kind of a alarm, and they need to drop what they do and go somewhere else. And I remember this was one of the biggest problems, even if in the company that I had that was like really agile, and then you go, for example, to a retrospective and you hear this again. And then I think those problems, or you have people that will be just, another one is like, when there is a team, they work, but then this person comes and tells them what to do, that person comes and tells them what
Mm.
to do, somebody else tells somebody else because they know better each other, so they will give them work. And then you also feel like we don't even like know what's being done, we don't understand, they don't track what they do, right? Sometimes they just don't use a board, they don't have Jira or, I don't know, Teams or anything. And then you can see I remember one team was using some kind of a document that only they had access to, and they were the backend team, so everybody else was working with them and were dependent, like they were blocking the other teams, but they only knew it in their note what they will be doing. So then you see, like, okay, there's no visibility, there's lack of alignment, people don't know really why, what they do. If you ask them what's your goal and where are you going, they have no clue how to answer. Many people give you work and you don't know what is more important because priorities are not there. So I think those
Mhm.
are the red flags for me. Like, how do you know what's really being achieved, and how do you even know where you're going? Is the strategy clear? Do we have some goals to achieve? We never mentioned the sprint goals, but I think it's like just having goals. It doesn't matter what you do, Scrum, Kanban, having some goals and being able to achieve them, not to mention the dopamine you get from achieving the goals, but also the fact that we can see that there is a progress. How do you know it otherwise? And some companies are really lucky. I don't know if you noticed, there are some companies you think, how with all the disorganization, the total chaos, they still get, they really have better return and like revenue than the ones that are perfectly organized. So there is also the factor of luck. But in those companies, usually what you get is people burn out easily, because you would have also those superheroes that,
Mhm.
well, he treats everybody terribly, but he's really good at what he
He
does
knows
and he
everything.
can, yeah. And then you
Yeah.
are like, yeah, but soon all those other people will be gone because they don't want to work with that person. So I think it's like, it can be luck that you really have terrible organization, but you just have great product and people want to buy it. But at some point it will collapse inside because people will not know what to do next, and other people will just leave. And then you will lose a lot of also the know-how, because typically those organizations don't have documentation, they don't even have Jira, so you don't even know what was done and what's not. So I think those are the strategies that help to keep the ship afloat and not
Mhm.
sink, because you have
Yeah.
like a strike of luck, it might end. And also, yeah, the company can just implode on its own.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I have also seen that happening. We're crossing the 1 hour. I still have a couple of questions if you're good. So Maria, I have seen, and maybe you have also seen this across the industry, right? There's a lot of companies just firing agile people. Like we had a boom like a few years ago with the pandemic and everything, but now it looks like everyone is saying like, okay, well, we didn't need so many scrum masters, we didn't need so many agile coaches. The question would be, how do you see the future of agile? Do you see more roles? Do you see that these will probably pass this like a moda in Spanish? I don't know how to say it in like a
Like a
trend or something, right?
trend, yeah.
Yeah. Or do you see this establishing as a, as a real forever thing? Or what do you see about the future of agile in the industry?
Yeah, it is a bit like magic, what I will say. Like we cannot know, so my assessment can be good or not, but I think there is no turning back from agile. We know it's working. I hope it will keep evolving and we will get better ways to work. But I think it was like a boom and people suddenly were like, oh, if we have 12 teams, we need 12 agile coaches. And they started like hiring because they also were new, and everything is new and you don't know, can one scrum master work with two teams? Can it be like three teams? Maybe we have an agile coach that's like a service and the teams only ask them. That's when you already are mature. But I think, and I actually witnessed that happen, that, oh, we have 25 teams, we need 25 agile coaches, everybody has to have a scrum master in their team. And then you realize like, well, I don't know. And those are the easy roles to dismiss because people still consider they don't do real work. The developers do, so it's easier to dismiss. But I think it's really hard not to have that help. And the bigger the company, the more complex the company, the more help they need. It's like also talking about, in my company, we call ourselves now product operations. So everybody that
Mhm.
works like an agile coach, it's product operations. It could even be engineering operations. It's just the choice of words. And I think product operations in what they call themselves is something different. But it also depends on the company, on what is really the role of the product manager and if there is a team lead or not, because in Scrum there's none, but in reality we always usually have a team lead. And then what are their jobs? Can they absorb more work or do they need some help? And usually, especially in those bigger companies, you really need somebody to help with the processes, the change management. So I think this role is there to stay, but maybe the boom is now decreasing, but I think it should stabilize at some point and it will be just like any other role. You need to have somebody. Like previously, there was a project management manager as well. It was a bit different, the scope. It was like a mix of PM with the Scrum Master, right? But here, I think we are here to stay.
That's good. Good to hear. Maria, just two more, and that's it. The one thing that happened to me and probably to you and to many other Scrum Masters is that when we start as a Scrum Master, so picture yourself when you had your first or second job or about like being a Scrum Master, right? You start thinking that you have had this role for 1 year, 2 years, and that you are now a great Scrum Master, right? And when I look back at the Scrum Master that I was, I'm like, I remember that the one team asked me like, hey, we don't want to have 5 dailies because, and they had a good reason actually to not have a daily on Friday or something because they had, I don't know if it was a release time or whatever. And I was like, no. You're not able. The guide says this and this. So like this, I would have liked someone to tell me, hey, you're not being the best scrum master or coach, right? I mean, you don't have to follow the guide 100% and like with blindly, right? So what indicators do you think that we had or you could see in scrum masters that are starting that think that they are great scrum masters, but probably could go to the how could they go to the next level, or what indicators do you see that, hey, maybe you're not doing a great job, right? You need to be this, and I'm looking for these hidden tips, right? Not like, well, if you're not doing retrospectives, well, obviously you're not being a good scrum master, right? But hidden tips, right, for these persons?
I think it's also how would you like, I think a good exercise is like, we are now interviewing scrum masters for our company, right? And we need to define what is the indicator that this person might be a good one, and this not. And I think so whenever somebody is just backing up everything with a scrum guide or some theory, it's like
Mm,
I mean, when I'm explaining now, and it's a very theoretical thing, you can back yourself up because you are actually explaining something that exists. But when you are in
mhm,
a team and you need to make a decision, so that's why I think it's always good to do like situations. Present a situation to a scrum master. How would you react? What would you do? And then they have to react to a given situation. And if you always back up, no, because Scrum Guy says this, we need to have the dailies, or we need to have the retro. You didn't do the retro. That would be the end of it. And I sometimes get people telling me, Maria, we are thinking not to have a retro this sprint. Will we still go to heaven, or will we go to agile hell? And I'm like, if you don't have really time, and there's so much, and I know that there's a big quilombo, then like just not do it. You will do it next sprint. So I think it's one of the things is like somebody's backing up stuff only with the guide and never thinking about like, okay, in our situation we really need something else. Or when people and I have that as well, I was like that, like, oh my god, not doing the retro with the sin of the biggest sin ever. Now I think maybe once a month is okay. Sometimes you go to those retrospectives and and for example, you go to those meetings and you see like repeating the same stuff. Nobody really knows why they are here. And like so I think the very important thing is understanding the why. Like, why are we doing, like, even agile, why are you doing scrum? Oh, because the scrum
mhm,
guide says, because it's good, because agile is good. That's not the reason. We are not doing it for the sake of it. So I think it's really good to start applying the 9 whys. Like, I will why you to your death until you tell me why you really do it. And I think those are the things that it's like when I started explaining to you, like, I don't go to the team and say we will do
mhm,
scrum because it's good. It's like, let's see what you're doing, let's see how I can help you. I think it's when you start, like, it's like shoe hurry. So I do that
mhm,
analogy a lot to the teams. So it's from the martial arts, and you have shoe and you follow the rule. You are new, you need to follow the rules. So new team,
mhm,
I will tell them, follow scrum guide. You need to understand everything well. The next level is where you start like breaking the rule because
mhm,
you already understand the rule, but in your specific case it doesn't really apply, but you understand it well and you know why you're breaking it. And the third
mhm,
one is when you create your own rule, and maybe at some
mhm,
point you will create your own framework. And that's
mhm,
how I also see, when going back to that Scrum at scale, you create your agile toolbox. You learn
mhm,
this, you learn that, you learn about that, and then in the end, you should be able to create your own framework with the best approach for that given company and that given team, with all the circumstances that surround them. So I think it's also about like checking the bigger picture. Like, no, in our company, because we have the PO is not in the team, it's outside, we cannot do what this is said because we don't have that opportunity. So
mhm.
I think those are the keys. I don't know if I explained myself well.
Yeah, no, great. I mean, it depends on the context, right? And you need
Mm,
to apply whatever makes sense. And that's what makes a more mature coach than the one that, as you mentioned, when you're starting, you want to follow the rule, follow the guide, right? But you become older and you start learning, well, I can be flexible in certain things as long as I understand the why, right? So that's the message that I
exactly.
got. And it's a great tip. Yeah, and lastly, Maria, how do you or what resources do you like in order to stay up to date with Agile? Like, do you like to read a lot? Do you have certain authors? Do you like to read articles or RSS or YouTube channels? What would be good tips or resources for the people looking at this to keep learning, right?
Yeah, so I usually I have my bunch of people that I really like. Like, for example, there are the channels. So it's like your channel, my channel, and there are a few more like development at pace, or well, different channels depending on the language that we use. But then there is also like I have my bunch of people that I really follow on LinkedIn especially, and on Substack. And it's for retrospectives, Chris Stone. Like directly go to the guy. He has all the possible templates to make fun retrospectives. Then I have David Pereira and Martin Dalmine, the guys that are like, and also Paweł Hurin, who is Polish as well. So there are like my three superstars for product management, and they really help understand. Like they all hate safe. Okay, so there's
Yeah.
moment that I'm like, okay, now we're gonna hate safe. But apart from that, they really explain well the strategy, why we should set goals. Like Martin Timeline wrote a book on sprint goals, and it's a great book. I really recommend that because it's like a story. It reads like a story. It's not, it doesn't read, usually we have those books that we read and it's like, yeah, 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 like a
Mhm.
blog post, like a series of blog posts. His book is a story. It has a
Mhm.
light motive. I really appreciate it. Then there's Lisa Atkins and Coaching Agile Teams. I
Mhm.
really think this is one of the like
Yeah,
must
she's
have.
awesome.
And then we have
And
also Stefan Wolpers with the anti-patterns, and Barry
mhm.
Overeem, the liberators. They're really good. And they also explain very well the liberating structure. They started with that, and now I think they do a lot of different things.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that we can put the names over here in the description. So if they want to buy the book or from this guy yeah, okay. So YouTube, books, LinkedIn, following, Twitter. Yeah, I totally agree. That's where I am also. Maria, it has been a pleasure knowing you and talking to you, and I'm sure that the audience will really get some value from this conversation. So thank you a lot. I really appreciate your time. I hope that there's a next conversation at some point if you want, and please invite me to this masterclass. I will be glad to
Yeah.
be there and to collaborate and to learn. Thank you for everything.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me and for finding me. And I really appreciate this. There were some really good questions. I think they really resonate, and there are the question you ask questions that people really ask themselves when they are
Mhm.
new Scrum Masters. So
Thank
thank you
you.
so much.
Cool. Well,
Bye.
thank you everyone that saw this, and hope to see you soon in the next video. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you. Bye bye.